Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Stephen Hunt. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
If you are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Trooper Percy Butcher. Percy Butcher was born on the 18th of November 1895 in Moonmerra, Queensland. He was one of 10 children born to Arthur and Fanny Butcher. When the First World War broke out in 1914, Percy was working as a horse driver in the Mount Morgan mine. Percy Butcher enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 1st of November 1915. He was assigned to reinforcement of the 2nd Light Horse Regiment and began a short period of training in Australia. He embarked for active service on the 28th of March 1916, sailing from Brisbane on the troop ship Commonwealth. After several weeks at sea, Trooper Butcher arrived in Egypt, disembarking at Suez in early May. Having contracted measles during the voyage, he was immediately sent to hospital for treatment. He remained there for 2 weeks before returning to his unit. The 2nd Light Horse Regiment had joined the forces defending the Suez Canal, which was under threat from German and Ottoman forces. Butcher and his comrades spent the weeks which followed engaged in routine patrols of the area, as well as defending the town of Romani. During this period, it was decided to form a new unit equipped with camels to better allow Allied forces to negotiate the desert conditions. The Imperial Camel Corps was formed, attached to the Anzac Mounted Division. Consisting of British and Commonwealth troops, it incorporated 2 Australian regiments. Trooper Butcher transferred to the Camel Corps in June 1916. Over the weeks that followed, Butcher and his comrades undertook long-range patrols of the desert as Allied forces attempted to push the enemy out of Sinai and away from the Suez Canal. It was a new experience for many of the troops, who were far more familiar with riding horses than camels, but the animals proved to be a useful addition to desert fighting. As 1916 went on, Allied forces managed to continue pushing the enemy out of the Sinai and towards the border of Palestine. In December 1915, this push came to a halt outside the towns of Rafah and Magdaba, where an enemy stronghold was blocking the Allied advance. Mounted forces attacked first at Magdaba, advancing at daybreak on the 23rd of December. The attack initially made slow progress. Faced with the possibility of having no water access, it was almost called off. In the early afternoon, however, members of the Anzac Mounted Division made a rush to break through and take Magdaba. The assault was a success, overwhelming the Turkish forces that had all but surrendered by 4:30 p.m. More than 1,000 enemy troops were taken prisoner, and water was obtained for the Allied troops, who had sustained some 146 casualties in the attack. Among the dead was Trooper Percy Butcher. One of his comrades wrote to Butcher's mother, "I wish to convey to you our deepest sympathy in the loss of your son. I personally feel his death very keenly, as he was a man I thought a great deal of, being his section officer. On the 23rd of December, during the 2.5 hours preceding his death, your son was beside me. We were under fire the whole time and gradually advancing on the enemy's position until about 3:30, when about 200 yards from the enemy's stronghold, one of my men shouted, 'Butcher's done, sir.' A bullet had pierced his abdomen, apparently through the main blood vessel, as he died a few minutes later, and without any pain. There was more than one heart lamenting the death of poor old Butch. Be comforted, dear friend, by the knowledge that your son did his duty nobly and died for his country." Butcher's comrades laid him to rest east of the Magdaba Hospital. In 1919, his remains were transferred to the Canberra War Memorial Cemetery in Egypt. Trooper Percy Butcher was 21 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Trooper Percy Butcher, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.